My name is Sarah Irving, and what happened last month taught me that sometimes the most powerful response to family manipulation isn't anger. It's a perfectly executed legal transaction. You know that feeling when your parents call you selfish for keeping something that's rightfully yours? When they demand you sacrifice everything for the golden child who already has it all? That's exactly what mine did when they discovered I'd inherited my grandmother's $750,000 house. They didn't just ask me to share. They brought a realtor to force the sale, threatening to disown me if I didn't comply. But what they didn't know was that I'd already sold it 3 days earlier to someone they'd never expect. When they saw who was standing in that house, my mother actually screamed. Before I tell you how my sister's own CEO became my secret weapon, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if stories about standing up to family pressure resonate with you. I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is there. Are you a night owl like me, or catching this with your morning coffee? Now let me take you back to where this all started. Growing up as the older daughter should have meant something, right? In most families, maybe. But in the Irving household, I learned early that birth order meant nothing compared to who could charm their way into our parents' hearts. And that person was always Melissa. While I was taking the bus to public school at 7 in the morning, my parents drove Melissa to Preston Academy, the private school that cost more than most people's annual salary. Sarah's independent, Mom would say. She doesn't need what Melissa needs. Translation: Sarah doesn't deserve what Melissa deserves. I remember sitting at the kitchen table showing Dad my straight-A report card. He glanced at it for maybe 2 seconds before asking, "Did you see Melissa's art project? She got selected for the district showcase." My perfect grades were expected. Melissa's every achievement was a miracle worthy of celebration. Ballet lessons, violin tutors, summer camps in Europe, Melissa got them all. When I asked to join the school debate team, which required a $200 fee, Dad said we needed to prioritize spending. That same week, they bought Melissa a $3,000 MacBook for her creative pursuits. But there was one person who saw through it all. Grandma Eleanor. While my parents fawned over Melissa's rehearsals and recitals, Grandma would quietly slip into my room. "How's my brilliant girl?" she'd ask, genuinely interested in my robotics club projects and my part-time job at the library. "Why do they love her more, Grandma?" I asked one night when I was 16, after my parents missed my National Honor Society induction to attend Melissa's dance recital. She pulled me close, her lavender perfume wrapping around me like armor. "They don't love her more, sweetheart. They love themselves more, and Melissa reflects what they wish they were. You, my dear Sarah, reflect who they actually are. Hardworking, practical, unadorned, and that terrifies them." I built my life on those words. While Melissa floated through college on our parents' dime, I worked 3 jobs to pay my way through state school. While she found herself through 6 changed majors, I graduated with honors in accounting. Boring? Maybe. Practical? Absolutely. The day I got my CPA license, Grandma was the only one who came to celebrate. My parents were in Cabo, celebrating Melissa's engagement to a man she'd known for 3 months. The engagement that would end 4 months later, naturally. You'd think after years of being overlooked, I'd get used to it. But some moments cut deeper than others, leaving scars that remind you exactly where you stand in your family's hierarchy. My 25th birthday fell on a Saturday. I'd mentioned it casually a few times, nothing pushy, just hoping for maybe a dinner together. That morning, I woke up to silence. No calls, no texts, nothing. Around noon, I saw Mom's Facebook post. "Shopping day with my baby girl, so blessed." The photo showed her and Melissa at Nordstrom, bags in hand, champagne glasses raised. It wasn't even Melissa's birthday month. When I graduated summa cum laude, my parents sent a text. "Congrats." When Melissa finally graduated, 2 years late, barely scraping by, they threw a party for 50 people and hired a photographer. The invitation called it a celebration of our shining star's journey. But Grandma Eleanor never forgot. Every achievement, every milestone, every small victory, she celebrated them all. She'd show up at my apartment with homemade lasagna when I passed my CPA exam. She framed my first business card. She even kept a folder of my college papers, telling everyone at her book club about her brilliant granddaughter, the accountant. "You're building something real, Sarah," she told me during one of our Sunday lunches. "Your parents might not see it, but I do. And someday when I'm gone, you'll have more than just my love to remember me by." I thought she meant photos or maybe her jewelry. I never imagined she meant the house. The house on Maple Street, where I'd spent every summer, every holiday my parents were too busy taking Melissa to competitions. The house where I learned to bake, to garden, to believe I was worth something. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a garden that bloomed year-round, and memories in every corner. When Grandma passed last year, I thought I'd lost my only real family. Then Attorney Mills called with the will reading appointment, and everything changed. But even then, sitting in that office, hearing my name called as the sole beneficiary of the house, I knew this wasn't the end of the story. Because in my family, what's mine has always been subject to committee approval, and the committee had always ruled in favor of Melissa. The real question was, would I let them do it again? The house wasn't just a building. It was $750,000 of prime real estate in one of Palo Alto's most desirable neighborhoods, 3 blocks from the tech corridor, walking distance to the Caltrain station, with a market value that had tripled in the last decade. But for me, it was the kitchen where Grandma taught me to make her famous apple pie, the back porch where we'd sit reading together in comfortable silence, the garden where she showed me that patience and care could make beautiful things grow. Every room held a memory of being seen, being valued, being loved without conditions. I'd been living in a cramped studio apartment in Redwood City, 40 minutes from work on a good day, an hour and a half when traffic decided to remind you why everyone hates the Bay Area commute. The inheritance meant I could finally have stability, a real home, a place where I didn't have to worry about rent increases or roommates who forgot to pay utilities. More importantly, it was 2 miles from the tech company where I'd just landed a senior accountant position. The same company, ironically, where Melissa had just been promoted to marketing manager. She'd been bragging about it for weeks, how she was the youngest manager in the department, how the CEO himself had approved her promotion. The house would cut my commute from 40 minutes to 5. It would save me $2,000 a month in rent. It would give me the space to finally have a home office, maybe even take on consulting clients. This wasn't just an inheritance, it was my future. But within days of the will being read, the calls started. "Sarah, honey, we need to talk about Grandma's house." Mom's voice was sweeter than it had been in years. "It's a big responsibility, sweetheart. Maybe too big for one person." Dad's concern was touching, really. If only he'd shown it sometime in the last 32 years. Then came Melissa's tears. "I'm not saying you should give it to me, but maybe we could share? Or you could sell and we could split it? I mean, you already have a place to live. A studio apartment with black mold and a landlord who considered hot water optional. But sure, I already had a place." The pressure was building, and I knew from experience it would only get worse. In the Irving family, no was just the opening negotiation. The text messages started at 6 a.m. and didn't stop until midnight. Every day, for 2 weeks straight. "Family means sharing, Sarah. Don't be selfish. Your sister is starting a new life. She needs this more than you. Grandma would be disappointed in your greed." That last one almost made me laugh. Grandma, who explicitly left the house to me and only me, would be disappointed? The woman who once told me, "Your parents would sell your shadow if Melissa needed the money?" Melissa's tears had evolved into full-blown hysteria. She'd call sobbing about how she and her new boyfriend, yes, another one, were ready to build a life together, but couldn't afford a house in this market. How it wasn't fair that I got a free house while she had to struggle, in her luxury apartment that our parents paid for. Then came the family intervention. Aunt Helen, Uncle Robert, cousins I hadn't heard from in years, all suddenly concerned about family unity and fairness. Their messages were carbon copies of each other, like Mom had sent them a script. Think about what's best for everyone, not just yourself. Melissa has always been fragile. You're the strong one. Don't let property come between family. The Thursday before the meeting at Attorney Mill's office, Dad sent the ultimatum. Either you agree to sell and split the proceeds, or you're no longer welcome in this family. Your choice. I stared at that text for an hour. No longer welcome in the family. As if I'd ever truly been welcome in the first place. That's when my phone buzzed with a different kind of message. Unknown number. Sarah, this is Marcus Chen. I heard through professional channels you might be selling a property on Maple Street. I'm very interested. Can we talk? Marcus Chen, my old study partner from college who'd gone on to build a tech empire. Marcus Chen, who was now CEO of the very company where Melissa had just been promoted. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor. I looked at Dad's ultimatum again, then at Marcus's message. For the first time in 2 weeks, I smiled. They wanted me to sell the house? Fine, but they never specified to whom. Hi, Marcus, I typed back. Yes, let's talk, but it needs to be confidential for now. His response was immediate. Understood. I can meet tonight. And Sarah? I remember how they treated you in college. This time, you call the shots. If you've ever been the family scapegoat, the one expected to sacrifice everything while watching the golden child get handed the world, drop a comment below. I want to hear your story. How did you finally stand up for yourself? Or are you still fighting that battle? And if this resonates with you, please hit that like button and subscribe. Your support means everything, especially to those of us who grew up being told we didn't matter. Now let me tell you about the meeting that changed everything. The day my family thought they'd corner me, but walked straight into my trap instead. Attorney Mills's conference room felt smaller with my entire family crammed inside. Mom and Dad sat across from me like prosecutors. Melissa perched between them, tissues already in hand. Even Aunt Helen had shown up, for moral support. The mahogany table reflected their determined faces. They'd come prepared for war. Before we begin, Dad announced, not waiting for Attorney Mills to speak, we've brought our own real estate agent. He gestured to a woman in an aggressive red blazer. Mrs. Patterson has buyers ready, cash offers. That's premature, Attorney Mills said calmly, adjusting her glasses. Not at all, Mom interjected. We're here to settle this as a family. The will was already settled, I said quietly. Wills can be contested, Dad shot back. Undue influence, mental capacity. We've consulted lawyers. Melissa started crying on cue. I can't believe you're making us do this, Sarah. After everything our parents have done for you. Everything? I wanted to laugh, or maybe cry. Instead, I kept my face neutral, the way Grandma taught me during our chess games. Never let them see your next move, she'd said. Sarah's being selfish, Mom announced to the room. One daughter hoarding property while the other struggles. I just want fairness, Melissa whimpered. Is that too much to ask? Mrs. Patterson, the realtor, slid papers across the table. If we list today, I can have it sold within a week. The market is hot. Sarah hasn't agreed to sell, Attorney Mills reminded them. She will. Dad's voice carried that tone I knew too well, the one that preceded every ultimatum of my childhood. Because if she doesn't, she's out of this family. No holidays, no birthdays, no contact with future grandchildren, nothing. The room went silent. Even Aunt Helen looked uncomfortable. Mom reached over and squeezed Melissa's hand. Your sister needs this, Sarah. Her new position requires her to entertain clients. She needs a proper house, not that apartment. The apartment you pay for? I asked. That's temporary, Mom snapped. And it's none of your business. Attorney Mills cleared her throat. Perhaps we should get Sarah to sign, Dad interrupted. Today, now. I looked at each of their faces, so confident, so sure they'd won. My phone vibrated in my pocket. A text from Marcus. Contract signed, ready when you are. Actually, I said, standing up, there's something you should know. Sit down, Sarah, Dad's command voice, the one that used to make me freeze as a child. I remained standing. I need to tell you something. The only thing you need to tell us is yes, Mom said. Yes, you'll sell. Yes, you'll share with your sister. Yes, you'll stop being difficult. Melissa dabbed her eyes. I've already told Brad we might be house shopping soon. You're embarrassing me, Sarah. Brad, this month's soulmate. I wondered if he knew about Kevin from last month, or if that had been conveniently forgotten like all of Melissa's inconvenient truths. Your sister has worked so hard for her promotion, Aunt Helen added. She deserves a house that reflects her new status. Unlike you, Dad said, his voice dripping contempt. An accountant, living in a studio. What do you need with a 3-bedroom house? She probably wants to rent it out, Melissa suggested. Make money off Grandma's death. It's disgusting. The irony of Melissa calling anyone else money-hungry while demanding my inheritance almost broke my composure. Almost. Mrs. Patterson pushed the papers closer. The offer is generous, more than fair market value. You'd each walk away with enough for a down payment. Each? I looked at the realtor. The house is mine. Don't be technical, Mom scolded. Family shares. Like you shared college tuition? I asked. Like you shared birthday celebrations? Like you shared attendance at graduations? Here we go. Dad rolled his eyes. Poor Sarah and her grudges. You got Grandma's attention, Melissa accused. Every Sunday, every holiday. You monopolized her. The least you can do is share what she left behind. Attorney Mills shifted uncomfortably. The will is clear. Wills can be broken, Dad stated. I've already spoken to lawyers. Undue influence is real. An old woman, isolated by one granddaughter from the rest of the family. That's a lie, I said quietly. Is it? Mom challenged. You were always at her house, always filling her head with stories about how unfair we were, turning her against Melissa. My phone buzzed again. Marcus. En route. ETA 15 minutes. I looked at my family. These people who shared my DNA but had never shared my struggles, who demanded everything while offering nothing. Who saw my inheritance not as Grandma's final gift, but as their entitlement. You want the house? I asked. Fine, let's go see it. The room erupted in suspicious murmurs. Dad's eyes narrowed. What are you playing at? No games, I said, checking my phone. But if we're doing this, let's do it at the house. You should see what you're so desperate to take. It's not taking if it's family, Mom corrected, already gathering her purse. Attorney Mills stood. I should mention that any decisions about the property will be made today, Dad cut her off. We're done waiting. The convoy to Maple Street felt like a funeral procession. I drove alone while my parents Melissa and Mrs. Patterson rode together, probably strategizing their final attack. Attorney Mills followed in her Lexus, looking increasingly uncomfortable with the situation. My phone rang through the car speakers. Marcus. You sure about this? He asked. They want to see the house, I replied. They're about to get their wish. The papers are all filed, recorded with the county yesterday. It's done, Sarah. I know. I glanced in my rearview mirror at my family's car. How's the Tesla running? Parked in the driveway as we speak. See you in 10. Melissa had been texting me non-stop. Just do the right thing. Don't embarrass yourself. Mom's blood pressure is up because of you. That last one was rich. Mom's blood pressure was probably up from the excitement of stealing another thing from me to give to Melissa. As we turned onto Maple Street, I saw it. The familiar Victorian with its wraparound porch and garden that Grandma had loved so much. The garden I'd helped her plant. The porch where she'd taught me that family isn't about blood, it's about choice. And there, gleaming in the driveway like a beacon of karma, was a familiar white Tesla Model S. Melissa's gasp was audible even from my car. That's... I pulled up to the curb and got out, watching their faces as recognition dawned. Melissa had gone pale. Mom was squinting in confusion. Dad was already red-faced, though he didn't understand why yet. "Whose car is that?" Mom demanded. Melissa's voice came out as a whisper. "That's my CEO's car, Marcus Chen's car." "Your CEO?" Dad turned to her. "What would he be doing here?" I walked toward the front door, keys in hand that no longer worked. "Why don't we find out?" The door opened before I could knock. "Actually, there's something you should know about the house," I said, pausing at the porch steps. "We know everything we need to know," Dad said, pushing past me. "It's a family asset being hoarded by—" He stopped mid-sentence. Marcus Chen stood in the doorway, looking every inch the CEO in his casual but expensive Saturday attire. The kind of effortless wealth that didn't need to announce itself but was impossible to ignore. "Mr. Chen," Melissa's voice cracked, "why are you—" "Ms. Irving," Marcus nodded to her professionally, then turned to me with a warm smile. "Sarah, perfect timing." "Someone explain what's happening," Mom demanded, though her voice had lost its earlier confidence. Mrs. Patterson, the realtor, stepped forward with her hand extended. "Mr. Chen, I'm Rebecca Patterson. I understand you're interested in—" "I'm not interested," Marcus said smoothly. "I'm the owner." The silence that followed was beautiful. Pure, shocked, disbelieving silence. Dad found his voice first. "That's impossible. This house belongs to Sarah." "Belonged," Attorney Mills corrected, finally speaking up. "Past tense." 3 days ago," I added quietly. "The sale was finalized 3 days ago." Melissa's face cycled through emotions like a slot machine. Confusion, disbelief, anger, fear. "You sold it? You sold it to my boss?" "Technically, to his investment company," Marcus clarified. "All perfectly legal. Attorney Mills can confirm." Mills nodded. "I reviewed the documents myself. Clean sale, fair market value. Actually, above market value." "You can't do this!" Mom shrieked. "We're your family! You had no right!" "Actually, she had every right," Marcus said, his tone still professional, but with an edge. "It was her property, her decision." "But we had buyers," Mrs. Patterson protested. "Cash offers." "Bit late for that," Marcus observed. Dad's face had turned an alarming shade of purple. "This is fraud, manipulation. You took advantage of her." Marcus laughed, actually laughed. "Mr. Irving, I paid $800,000 for this property, $20,000 above asking. If anyone was taken advantage of, it was me. But I wanted this specific house, in this specific location." "Why?" Melissa whispered, and I could see her career flashing before her eyes. Marcus smiled. "We're opening a satellite office, for the marketing team. Your team, actually." The way Melissa swayed, I thought she might faint. "A satellite office?" Melissa's voice was barely audible. "Here?" "The company's been looking to expand our presence in residential areas," Marcus explained, still standing in the doorway like he belonged there. Which, legally, he did. "Better work-life balance for our teams. This location is perfect." Dad stepped forward aggressively. "You manipulated my daughter. This is illegal. We'll sue." "Which daughter?" Marcus asked innocently. "Because Sarah approached me with a clean offer. I paid above market value. Everything's documented." "You knew each other before," Mom accused. "This was planned." "We were study partners in college," I said calmly. "Is it illegal to sell property to someone you know?" "When it's done to spite your family, yes," Dad shouted. Attorney Mills cleared her throat. "Actually, no. That's not illegal at all." 30 people had gathered on the sidewalk now. Neighbors Grandma had known for decades, watching the Irving family drama unfold like a live soap opera. Mrs. Kim from next door had her phone out. Mr. Peterson was openly grinning. "Sarah, please," Melissa begged, tears streaming. "This is my career, my future." "Your career is fine," Marcus assured her, "as long as you maintain professional standards." The threat was subtle but clear. Melissa caught it. Her tears stopped instantly. "You vindictive little—" Mom started toward me, but Attorney Mills stepped between us. I'd be very careful, Mrs. Irving. Assault charges won't help your situation. What situation? Dad demanded. We'll contest this sale. Undue influence, fraud, something. On what grounds? Mills asked. That Sarah sold her legal property to a willing buyer? She did it to hurt Melissa, Mom cried. I did it to secure my future, I corrected. Just like you've always secured Melissa's. Mrs. Patterson was backing toward her car. I should go. This is clearly a family matter. Not anymore, Marcus said. This is a business matter now. You haven't heard the best part, I said, finding my voice stronger than it had ever been with them. I have a 10-year lease agreement, below market rent. I'll be living here while you, I looked at Melissa, work here. Melissa made a sound like a wounded animal. You'll be here? Every day? Every single day, I confirmed. Your big promotion, your fancy new office, it'll be in Grandma's house, with me as your landlord's tenant. This can't be happening, Melissa whispered, gripping Mom's arm. He can't make me work here, that's harassment or something. Marcus's expression remained professionally neutral. The marketing team needs collaborative space. This house has been designated for that purpose. You're welcome to request a transfer to another team, of course. The implied demotion hung in the air like smoke. You planned this together. Dad pointed between Marcus and me. This is conspiracy. It's business, Marcus corrected. Sarah needed a buyer. I needed a property. We both got what we wanted. What about what we want? Mom shrieked. What about Melissa's needs? What about them? I asked, genuinely curious. For 32 years, everything has been about Melissa's needs, her education, her hobbies, her dreams, her failures that you paid to fix. When was it ever about what I needed? You never needed anything, Dad shot back. You were always independent, strong, you didn't need us. Because you never offered. The words exploded from me. I wasn't independent by choice. I was independent by necessity. Because every resource, every moment of attention, every penny went to her. The neighbors were recording everything now. Mrs. Kim had been joined by her daughter. The Petersons' teenage son was live streaming. We should discuss this privately, Attorney Mills suggested. No, I said. They wanted to humiliate me publicly. They brought a realtor to force a public sale. Let's keep it public. My phone buzzed. Marcus glanced at his. The movers are here, he announced. A truck pulled up. 2 men began unloading office furniture. Desks, chairs, a conference table. No, Melissa breathed. No. The team meeting is Monday, Marcus informed her. 9 a.m. sharp. Don't be late. I won't work here. Melissa stamped her foot like the child she'd never stopped being. I refuse. That's your choice, Marcus said mildly. HR can discuss your exit package if you prefer. Mom turned to me, her face twisted with rage. You've ruined your sister's life. Are you happy now? I haven't ruined anything, I replied. I sold my house. She still has her job. You still have your golden child. Nothing's changed except I'm no longer available to be your doormat. Dad stepped close, his voice low and menacing. You're done. You're out of this family. I met his eyes. Promise? Can you believe they actually thought they could force me to sell? What would you have done in my position? Drop a comment below. I genuinely want to know if you think I went too far or not far enough. If you're watching from California, give me a heart emoji. New York? Drop an apple. And wherever you are, if you've ever had to stand up to family bullying, you're not alone. The story's not over yet. What happened next changed everything. Not just for Melissa, but for every relationship in our family. Let me show you what real consequences look like. The drive to Grandma's house, my former house, Marcus's house, whatever we were calling it now, felt like a victory parade in reverse. My family followed in their car, Mom probably ranting, Dad likely planning legal strategies, Melissa definitely catastrophizing about her career. I parked and walked to the front door, using my key one last time before remembering it no longer worked. The symbolism wasn't lost on me. More neighbors had gathered. Word traveled fast in this neighborhood where nothing exciting ever happened. Mrs. Chen from 3 houses down called out, "Eleanor would be so proud of you, Sarah." That stopped my mother cold. Proud? Of this betrayal? Of her granddaughter finally standing up for herself, Mrs. Chen shot back. We all knew how you treated her. Eleanor told us everything. The revelation that Grandma's neighbors knew our family's secrets made Mom's face cycle through several shades of red. Marcus had moved onto the porch, surveying his new property with satisfaction. The movers continued unloading furniture. A desk went past that probably cost more than my monthly rent. That's when I noticed the Tesla wasn't alone anymore. 3 more cars had arrived, all expensive, all belonging to people I recognized from LinkedIn photos. Marcus's leadership team. "What is this?" Melissa demanded, recognizing her department head getting out of a BMW. "Site inspection," Marcus explained. "We're planning the layout. Your workspace will be in the front room, Melissa, the one with the bay window." Grandma's reading room, where she'd spent countless hours with her books and her tea, watching the street, waving at neighbors. Now it would be Melissa's office, where she'd have to see me coming and going every single day. "That's," Melissa started, then stopped. What could she say? That it was inappropriate? Unfair? Rich, coming from her. Her department head, Jennifer Wu, walked over. "Melissa, didn't expect to see you here. Getting a preview of the new space?" Melissa's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Yes, just looking." "Sarah," Jennifer noticed me, extending her hand. "Marcus mentioned you're our residential tenant. How wonderful that you'll be staying in your grandmother's house." "You know each other?" Mom asked suspiciously. "We met at the company holiday party," Jennifer explained. "Sarah did some consulting work for our finance department last year. Brilliant work on the tax restructuring." Another secret revealed. I'd been consulting for Marcus's company for months, building relationships, proving my worth in ways that had nothing to do with family connections. "You've been planning this," Dad said, the full realization hitting him. "This whole thing. You've been planning to humiliate us." "No," I said simply. "I've been planning to survive you." Marcus stepped forward, and the entire street seemed to hold its breath. Even the movers paused, sensing the tension. "Mr. and Mrs. Irving," he began, his CEO voice carrying across the yard. "Let me be crystal clear about what's happened here. 3 days ago, Sarah Irving sold me this property for $800,000. The sale is complete, filed with the county, and irreversible." "You took advantage," Dad started. "I took advantage of a fair market opportunity," Marcus cut him off. "Sarah needed a buyer who would respect her attachment to this property. I needed a location for our satellite office. We both won." "And Melissa?" Mom's voice cracked. "What about our daughter?" "Which one?" Marcus asked pointedly. "Because from what I've observed, you only seem concerned about one of them." Melissa stepped forward, mascara running. "Mr. Chen, please, this is my family, my sister. Can't we work something out?" "We have," he said. "You'll report here Monday for team meetings. Sarah will be residing upstairs per our lease agreement. You'll maintain professional boundaries. Any harassment of our tenant will result in immediate termination." "Harassment?" Melissa gasped. "She's my sister." "Who you tried to force out of her inheritance," Jennifer Wu added, clearly having been briefed. "That ends now." The neighbors were eating this up. Mr. Peterson actually had popcorn. Where did he even get popcorn? "This is extortion," Dad sputtered. Attorney Mills, who'd been silent, finally spoke. "Actually, it's consequences. Something your family seems unfamiliar with." "Janet!" Mom gasped. "You're supposed to be neutral." "I am neutral," Mills replied. "I'm also honest. Your mother, Mrs. Irving, specifically excluded you from any decision-making about this property. She told me, and I quote, 'Linda and Robert will try to take this from Sarah. Don't let them.'" The silence was deafening. "Grandma said that?" I asked, my voice small. Mills nodded. "She knew exactly what she was doing. She also knew Sarah would need protection from family pressure. That's why she insisted on the specific language in the will. No sharing clauses, no family override provisions. Just Sarah. She turned our mother against us, Mom accused. No, Mrs. Kim called out. Eleanor saw who you really were. We all did. The way you'd parade Melissa around while Sarah walked behind. The birthday parties you threw for one daughter while forgetting the other existed. That's private family business, Dad roared. Not when you're screaming on my new lawn, Marcus observed. Which, by the way, you're trespassing on. Unless Sarah invites you in, you need to leave. Everyone turned to look at me. My family, the neighbors, Marcus, his team, waiting for my decision. The sale is legal, Attorney Mills continued, pulling documents from her briefcase. Here's the deed transfer, filed with Santa Clara County 3 days ago. The title search, clean. The purchase agreement, signed and notarized. Every single document is in order. She spread them on the hood of her Lexus like evidence in a court case. Sarah had full legal right to sell, Mills continued. No liens, no encumbrances, no other claims. Your threats of contesting the will? Empty. The statute of limitations for undue influence claims requires proof of manipulation at the time of signing. Eleanor was evaluated by 2 separate physicians before finalizing her will. Both confirmed she was of sound mind. You knew about this? Dad accused Mills. I knew Sarah was considering a sale. It's not my job to inform you of her legal decisions. But family, Mom started. Has no legal standing here, Mills finished. Sarah owns nothing to you regarding this property. She never did. Marcus pulled out his phone. I have the wire transfer records here. $800,000, cleared 3 days ago. Would you like to see them? This is disgusting, Mom spat. Using money to destroy family bonds. The only thing destroyed here is your assumption that you could control Sarah forever, Marcus replied. I watched Melissa process everything. Her boss owned her new office. Her office was in the house she'd tried to steal from me. She'd have to see me every day, knowing I could have made her homeless with my inheritance, but instead chose to protect myself. There's more, I said quietly, finding my voice. The lease agreement includes a clause. I have right of first refusal if Marcus ever sells, at the original purchase price. What? Dad's head snapped toward me. It means, Attorney Mills explained, that Sarah can buy the house back for exactly what Marcus paid, whenever he decides to sell. She's not just a tenant, she's a future owner with protected rights. That's... Mom struggled for words. That's planning. Long-term planning. Something you never taught me, I said. But Grandma did. She said the best revenge isn't emotional, it's contractual. Marcus smiled. Your grandmother sounds like she was a wise woman. She was, I said, looking directly at my parents. She saw what you never did, that I wasn't weak because I was quiet. I was watching, learning, waiting. For what? Melissa asked. For the moment you tried to take the one thing that was truly mine. And look, I gestured to the papers, the house, the witnesses. Here we are. So let me understand this, Melissa said slowly, her marketing brain finally catching up. I have to work in this house. My office will be in Grandma's reading room, and you'll be living upstairs. Correct, Marcus confirmed. And if I refuse? That's your choice. But refusing a reasonable work assignment would be considered insubordination. This isn't reasonable, she protested. This is punishment. This is business, Jennifer Wu interjected. The location was chosen for its proximity to client bases and the residential feel we want for creative sessions. Your personal connection to the property is irrelevant. Irrelevant? Mom shrieked. My daughter has to work in a house she should have inherited. Should have? I asked. Based on what? Being born second? Being prettier? Being more loved? Based on need, Dad shouted. She needs it more. No, I said firmly. She wants it more. There's a difference. I need stable housing. She wants a status symbol. I need freedom from your manipulation. She wants another toy you'll buy her. How dare you? Mom started toward me again. Marcus stepped between us. "Mrs. Irving, you're trespassing on private property. Leave now or I'll call the police." "You wouldn't dare," Dad challenged. Marcus already had his phone out. "Santa Clara Police? Yes, I need assistance with trespassers at 427 Maple Street." "We're leaving." Mom grabbed Dad's arm. "But this isn't over." "Actually, it is," I said. "The house is sold. The contracts are signed. Melissa starts her new office arrangement Monday, and I'll be living my life, in my home, on my terms." "Your home?" Melissa laughed bitterly. "You're a tenant." "With a 10-year lease at below-market rent and the right to buy it back," I reminded her. "Which is more claim than you'll ever have." The police cruiser rounded the corner, lights off but visible. My parents backed toward their car. "You've chosen strangers over family," Mom said, her final shot. "No," I corrected. "I've chosen myself over people who never chose me." "This is all your fault," Melissa hissed at me. "When Mr. Chen gets tired of his little game, when you're alone with no family, remember you did this." "I'll remember," I promised. "Every morning when I wake up in my grandmother's house, every evening when I tend her garden, every time I don't have to beg for scraps of respect from people who should have loved me equally." They left then, Mom crying dramatically, Dad red-faced and muttering about lawyers, Melissa silent and shell-shocked. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Within an hour, Mom had posted on Facebook, "Heartbroken. When money matters more than mother's love, some daughters are just born cruel." Aunt Helen called me 15 minutes later. "Sarah, what really happened? Your mom's saying you sold the house to spite them." "I sold my house to someone who offered above market value," I said simply. "The fact that he happens to be Melissa's CEO is just coincidence." Helen laughed. Actually, laughed. "Coincidence my ass. Good for you, kid. Your grandma would be cackling." The family group chat exploded, cousins picking sides, uncles threatening legal action they couldn't afford, aunts clutching pearls they didn't own. But the best part? The neighbors group chat that Mrs. Kim added me to. Finally, someone stood up to those horrible people. Eleanor always said Sarah was the smart one. "Did you see Robert's face? Priceless. Linda's been telling everyone for years how successful Melissa is. Bet she won't mention her new office location." Monday morning arrived like Christmas. I woke up in my grandmother's bed, in my grandmother's house, and made coffee in my grandmother's kitchen. At 8:45 a.m., cars started arriving. Melissa's car pulled up at 8:58. She sat in it for 5 full minutes, probably giving herself a pep talk. When she finally got out, she looked up at my window. I waved. The look on her face was worth every family dinner I'd ever suffer through. Jennifer Wu ran the meeting in what used to be Grandma's reading room. I could hear bits of it through the old vents. Something about innovative workspace solutions and residential integration. Corporate speak for your sister owns you now. At lunch, Melissa knocked on my door. "Can we talk?" I let her in. She looked around the apartment I'd created upstairs. My books, my plants, my life. "This isn't fair," she said quietly. "What isn't?" "You living here, me working here. It's psychological torture." "It's consequences," I corrected. "You tried to take my inheritance. Now you work in it." "I'm your sister." "Yes," I agreed. "And that should have meant something to you before you tried to rob me." She left without another word. That evening Marcus called. "How was day 1? "Educational," I said. "For everyone." "No regrets?" I looked around Grandma's kitchen, at her china still in the cabinets, her apron still on its hook. Not a single one. 3 months later, the new normal had settled in like sediment in still water. Melissa arrived every morning at exactly 9 a.m., never earlier, never later. She'd park in the designated employee section Marcus had marked out, gather her things with robotic precision, and walk past my door without ever looking up. The house had transformed. Downstairs was all business, sleek computers, whiteboards, the constant hum of productivity. Upstairs remained Grandma's sanctuary, my sanctuary, untouched by corporate ambition. Your parents called again, Marcus told me during one of our monthly check-ins. They're offering to buy the house from me, double what I paid. And? I told them the property isn't for sale. Your father used some colorful language. Sounds about right. The real change was in Melissa. Without our parents' constant reinforcement, without their money cushioning every fall, she was struggling. Her work was mediocre, her ideas uninspired. Jennifer Wu had put her on a performance improvement plan. She's never had to actually work before, Jennifer confided during a chance meeting in the garden. Your parents' connections got her the job, but connections don't write marketing strategies. The family had fractured completely. Thanksgiving passed without a word. Christmas, too. Mom sent one text. "You're missing Melissa's engagement party." Brad apparently had proposed. Or maybe it was Blake. I'd stopped keeping track. But here's what I gained. Peace. Mornings with coffee in Grandma's garden. Evenings with books in her reading chair. After business hours, of course. Weekends tending the roses she'd planted. The ones that bloomed despite neglect. Despite harsh weather. Despite everything. You know what Grandma told me once? I said to Marcus during a property walkthrough. She said the Irving family was like a garden where only one type of flower was allowed to bloom. Everything else got cut down or pulled out. And now? Now I'm growing wild. The financial security helped too. Between my accounting job, consulting work, and the money I saved on rent, I'd accumulated more savings in 3 months than in the previous 3 years. Meanwhile, Melissa was learning what life looked like without parental subsidies. Her luxury apartment was gone. The designer clothes, the expensive car, all downsized. "It's not fair," she'd complained to a coworker, not knowing I could hear through the vents. "She got everything." "Didn't she inherit it?" the coworker asked. "That's not the point." But it was exactly the point. I'd inherited what was mine, and for the first time in my life, I'd kept it. 6 months after the sale, I found myself in Grandma's garden at sunset, planting the last of the spring bulbs. The corporate buzz downstairs had ended hours ago. The house was mine again, filled with the kind of quiet Grandma used to say was good for the soul. My phone rang. "Mom, your sister lost her job today," she said without preamble. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, and meant it. Despite everything, I took no pleasure in Melissa's failures. "This is your fault. The stress of working in that house, seeing you every day, it destroyed her performance." Her performance was her responsibility. Family helps family, Sarah. Family respects family, Mom. You taught me that. Just not the way you intended. She hung up. Marcus called an hour later. "Melissa's termination was performance-based. Nothing to do with the property situation. I wanted you to hear that from me." "I know," I said. "I've heard her work calls through the vents. She was coasting on charm in a job that required substance." "You could have helped her," he suggested gently. "I could have," I agreed. But she never asked. She demanded, manipulated, cried, and threatened, but she never once just asked. That night, I found a box in Grandma's closet I'd missed before. Inside were letters, dozens of them, all addressed to me but never sent. I opened one at random. "My dearest Sarah, I watch them dim your light and it breaks my heart. But I see the fire in you they're trying to extinguish. It's not gone, just hidden. One day, you'll have the chance to let it burn bright. When that day comes, don't hesitate. Don't feel guilty. Take what's yours and build the life you deserve. All my love, Grandma." The date was 3 years ago. She'd been planning this even then. The house was quiet now without the daily office chaos. Marcus had moved the marketing team to a proper commercial space after Melissa's departure. He'd only needed the house for 6 months to make his point. But my lease remained ironclad. 10 years of security at a rate that would let me save, invest, build. "You won," Melissa had texted me that morning. "Happy?" "I'm free," I'd responded. "There's a difference." The garden bloomed around me as spring arrived in full force. Every plant Grandma had loved, every flower she'd tended, came back stronger than ever. The neighbors stopped by regularly now, sharing stories of Grandma I'd never heard, treating me like I belonged here. Because I did. Your parents are selling their house, Mrs. Kim mentioned over tea. Moving to Arizona, said something about starting fresh where no one knows their business. Running away. It's what they did best when reality didn't match their narrative. But I wasn't running anymore. I was planted here, in Grandma's house, in her garden, in the life she'd made possible for me. Not out of spite or revenge, but out of love. Self-love. The kind Grandma had tried to teach me. The kind my parents had tried to beat out of me. The kind that bloomed anyway. Family isn't who you're born to, Grandma had written in another letter. It's who stands by you when standing by you costs them something. By that definition, I'd lost nothing and gained everything. Thank you for listening to my story. I know it was long, but family drama always is, isn't it? If you've ever had to choose between keeping the peace and keeping your self-respect, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. What boundaries did you have to set? What did it cost you? What did you gain? And if you think I did the right thing, hit that like button. If you think I went too far, tell me why. I genuinely want to understand different perspectives. Subscribe if you want more stories about standing up to family manipulation with strategy, not screaming. Until next time, remember, the best revenge is a legally binding contract.